Hello everybody, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. So this is the Easter Egg Hunter series, episode 3 now. Well, episode 3, that was quick. Not really, it took a bit of time. This episode took a bit of time to make, that's why, a couple reasons. But anyway, what we are doing right now, mostly for this episode, is to check out all the Easter eggs, or most of them, on the moon. The moon around Kerbin, that's where we are going, yeah. And what you see right here is actually an aircraft that I'm docking to the carrier ship. And this aircraft has been made specifically to fly on Kerbin, fly on Duna, fly on Lathe, and even orbit around. So that's pretty good, it works quite well. Now docking this thing was it took a bit of time actually. Had to actually get it into the carrier ship first, through its side, which, you know, wasn't too much of a big deal. It's a little bit squashy in the back end there, as you can see, next to the main fuel tanks. But I got it in, and one issue came from it. The center of mass actually went out of whack because of it. The position of the aircraft there is not perfect, and because of that, center of mass is a bit off, and therefore when I was throttling up the engines, you could see that the whole carrier ship was slightly moving in one direction, and I had to actually fix it every now and then, which isn't too much of an issue. It's not an extremely fast move that it does, but it's slow and steady, but so you need to keep an eye on that if you're ever going to be using this design. So right here, this amazing craft is a refill ship. This is what I've docked to refill the entire USS Explorer. And it worked quite well. I've refilled everything and had leftover fuel from such a simple design utilizing the new parts. And you know what? The new parts are really amazing. Are really amazing, and I'm looking forward to it. For those of you that don't know about it, I created a challenge. It's the My Asteroids challenge, and I will be attempting it. Some of you may not have heard that, but I will be attempting the challenge that I created. It's probably going to take a while to do it, but the main thing, the reason why I love the challenge that I created, is because it encourages myself and others to create things that we wouldn't normally create in the game. Things that are made specifically for moving large objects, such as an asteroid, like a Class C sized asteroid. That's a bit of a challenge. And I have a few thoughts in mind. I haven't attempted my own challenge yet, but you can think about what you're going to do before you attempt it, and that's necessary. And also you need to think about what designs you were going to use to move asteroids. That's very important. Or your techniques involved. So anyway, this is, finally we have arrived at the moon. Of course, we're not going to land with the USS Explorer on the moon. We are going to use the probes. So we're going to be jettisoning the probes that are on board, and each probe will be visiting one Easter egg. And I'll explain a few issues along the way. So the way to jettison the probe is to obviously undock it, and there's a bit of an issue. One issue, it's a minor issue, it's slightly funny at the same time. These probes at the front there, they don't have any RCS. There's no real way to safely kick yourself away from the entire carrier ship. So, like, I wasn't going to throttle up the engines right so close to the carrier ship. I don't want to damage anything. I don't want to risk that. So, what I did was, if you actually try to turn the probe itself, it will whack onto an object and it will push itself away, just like I'm doing here. Look at that. And nothing's broken, perfectly fine. Now here's a very major kind of issue with the probes that wasn't an issue before the update, or even before that. I don't really remember exactly, but these probes, when I made them, I tested them. I did extensive tests with these probes. I landed on the moon with these probes several times, and each time I was trying to judge exactly how much fuel I was going to need, how many stages, And the whole point of this probe was to be able to land on the moon and yet get back into orbit after landing. That's what these probes are made specifically for. Now, if you are someone who is a bit wasteful on your landing or when trying to orbit, this won't work for you. This design will not work for you. You gotta know what you're doing. I don't always know what I'm doing, so I was a bit wasteful when using these probes. But even though these probes were made for orbiting, right? You land, you orbit, back again. I didn't orbit these things. I left these probes right next to the Easter egg so that eventually, when I have visited most or almost all of the Easter eggs in this whole game, only then will I give you guys this profile so you can put it into your KSP folder. And if, I don't know, if you don't have time, if a person doesn't have time or too lazy or something, or just want to check out the Easter eggs yourself, you can just download the profile and check everything like that, because everything is all marked out. The probes are where the Easter eggs are, so it's all relatively easy for you. So, again, a major issue is the fuel. The fuel ducts were made so that they could transfer fuel from the bottom part of this probe to the top. Unfortunately, somewhere along the updates, something wrecked. These fuel ducts are not connected as they used to be, which means if you're using this, you will have to manually transfer the fuel from the bottom part, the bottom fuel tanks, to the top. And then once the bottom fuel tanks are used up, you disconnect them. You jettison those because they are just dead weight. That's why I have added the separators on board. Now, the very first Easter egg that we are visiting is dun, 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 the Memorial. It's the Neil Armstrong Memorial. It's a unique Easter egg. Okay, that's what I'm gonna be calling Easter eggs that are unique. Are Easter eggs that only exist in one spot and only in one spot in the entire game. This Easter egg is unique. It exists only on the moon and only here. That's it. I don't know of any other location. No one else knows any other location where this could exist. This is the only spot. That's what I like about this type of Easter egg. See, again, the Easter eggs that we currently have in the game are the same, relatively the same. We have the monoliths. To me, they are not interesting. I've mentioned this before. Not interesting at all. And I don't think there have been any Easter eggs implemented in this latest update. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen anything on it yet. But if there are Easter eggs, we could find them along the way. So it's an issue because let's just say I travel all the way to Duna or something, and all of a sudden there's a new Easter egg somewhere around Moho. I have to go all the way to Duna and then back to Moho. It's a bit of a long trip, and with this entire carrier ship, I will have to refill it in interplanetary space several times, and that's for sure, because the fuel does not last very long. In fact, from full fuel tanks, the fuel tanks were absolutely full when I was orbiting Kerbin, and to get to the moon, half the fuel was used up. Half. That's a lot of fuel. And we are using the atomic rocket motors for maximum efficiency. They help out, but again, they are very slow. What am I to complain? Now, I did make this whole design modular, so if you see the main fuel tanks on the back part of the Easter Egg Hunter, USS Explorer, you would see that I actually have these big docking ports connected to the fuel tanks, the main fuel tanks. And I've put them there so that I can attach more fuel tanks if necessary. I'm not too sure if I should do that, because there's one thing in the way. The main aircraft, the aircraft that you saw me attach to the carrier ship, is in the way of these fuel tanks that we could add. That's an issue. But I guess I'll just have to leave it. At the very least, even though I will be doing interplanetary docking, I'll get more experience. That's the thing. I'll learn more. You guys will probably know more. I don't know. And this next Easter egg is one that is not unique. Well, it's only unique on Kerbin, but there are several of these Easter eggs. And the Easter egg, you can see it right down there. Some of you might know what it is. It is the Arch. Dun, 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 dun. The arch that some of you, long-term subscribers, might know about it. You see, I did make a moon-based series a long time ago. And this moon-based series was situated around right next to an arch on the moon. And this wasn't the arch, it was another arch that you will see next. And this arch is, all the arches are exactly the same. I don't see any difference, except for the location, of course. That's why I don't really call things like this unique in a sense. I mean, they're unique on the moon, but they're not unique in the sense that there's several of them at the same time. It's like unique or not unique, I don't know. And there's a location. As I said, I will give you guys the profile when I'm done with it, so you can, again, just try everything out yourself. And the way to get these probes out is really unconventional. To get these probes out away from the carrier ship, to be more precise. And check this out. This is a funny one. That was a bit risky what I did there. Lucky I didn't break a rover wheel, but I had to slam it with the probe in order to push it away, which ended up working perfectly fine. Nothing broke, although the wheel looked like it broke from the rover. But everything's fine. Everything is all good. So, some of you were asking me, one of you guys was like, where is the Design of the Week video? Patience, my friend, patience. If, again, some of you don't know, but I've mentioned it before, with Designs of the Week, I've kind of cancelled that series and segmented it. So, back then, I would have like 3 designs per episode. And each design would probably take an hour's worth of time, easy. Because when designing, you need to be a bit creative, so you need to make up something. I mean, for me, I usually go to Google on the internet and type in like aircraft concept designs, and I'll look at a design and I'll think about it and say, how can I implement this design into KSP with the current parts that are in the game, right? Except for the mods. We're not using mods for this. Well, not all the time. And that sometimes is very difficult because, of course, concept designs can be anything. From any size to the smallest size to specific shapes. And you need to be kind of creative and really need to be able to utilize all the resources in the game and the stock parts in order to create something that looks like the concept design in a way. And it's not all the time that I make a design that I haven't used from a concept design. Sometimes I make things from scratch, but it tends to be a really weird type design that turns out. Anyway, so this here is a monolith that we're visiting, and I did say we're not going to visit any except for one. And the reason why I'm visiting this monolith is because there is something else that I want to visit next door, quite nearby actually. And the monolith, I didn't know exactly where it was, but it was actually in a very obvious location. So you see that there's like a mountain right, we're staring at right in the center of the screen. There's a mountain, the monolith is actually right on top of that. And the thing about the monoliths, if you compare them to all the other Easter eggs, the monolith is not reflective. It does not reflect light, it's just pitch black. And it's even harder to see than an asteroid or a rock on the ground. Right, those rocks are more brighter, more easier, more visible to see than the monolith right there. And of course, there's nothing interesting about the monolith other than the location, as I've said 100 times. And of course, let's say a squad with a picture of a monkey on it. And there's a location, some of you want to find it. So yeah, it's pretty good stuff. I don't know exactly when I will be entering the challenge that I made, the asteroid challenge. Soon enough. I've got a lot of things on my mind actually at the moment. I've got this series to finish off. This is the Easter egg hunter series, so we're going to finish this off. We've got subscriber designs with hundreds of designs. And it's a bit of an issue at the same time, having to separate them, having to go through every single design and check to see what they are, to see if they are even designs at all. And there are a few security issues along the way that you kind of figure out. Anyway, so what we are visiting, so from the monolith, I throttled up and we have moved north, right, towards the North Pole, the northern side of the moon, to find something that a fellow subscriber told me about, that is these really deep craters, like really deep holes on the moon. Now, I've been told that they are not Easter eggs, but they are unique in their own way. They're just a planetary feature that is extremely weird in its own sense. And it's very weird how they even created them. The KSP team must have put some serious time to make these. Unless it was all automated and this was like part of mistakes that went along the way that, well, they claim not to be mistakes, but they are mistakes. Anyway, so we have just ran out of fuel. No more fuel. Is it going to smash? No, it's not. And we're moving like 70 something meters per second and perfectly fine. That is extremely weird. And I just did that old F12 thing there to show you that I was not using cheats. Not using cheats at all. And there we go. And if you're wondering why the main probe has not been smashed yet into shreds, is because, well, we have a whole bunch of fuel tanks surrounding the main probe, and that's kind of like a barrier, a protective shield around it. A temporary shield at that. And we are still rolling. Still rolling. Are we in the air? We're bouncing up and down. Wait, I can barely see. Oh, there we go. Smashed. Yeah, there we go. And everything just pretty much broke off. It appears as though we still have the docking port on board. Yeah, the docking port looks like it's still on the probe. And look at that. What a nice deep crater. Anyway, so straight ahead, you see that light? You see the light. That way, in that direction, straight ahead is where the hole kind of deepens big time. And in these holes, you have these rocks. And I was told, I saw it on the KSP forum, someone mentioned that in one of these holes, underneath the hole, literally like underground, there is a monolith. It's like, these monoliths are extremely hard to find and ridiculous. Really ridiculous. And here's something that I'm wondering about, and I haven't actually tested. With these Easter eggs, are we actually able to collect data from these Easter eggs? For instance, if I was to land on the Neil Armstrong Memorial, would I be able to collect data that would tell me like history about this memorial? Wouldn't that be cool? I don't think that exists, but don't think that exists. That would be pretty cool, but if you could land on the UFO and then that UFO would give you data, or I don't know, you know, it'd be awesome if you could kind of get technology through that. You could land on a UFO, right-click it, and you could unlock new parts, kind of like alien technology. Wouldn't that be a pretty cool feature in the game? I think that'd be awesome. And that would very much encourage us to search for these kind of things. And it wouldn't be just UFOs, it'd be other things. For instance, the pyramids, you could find, like you could say that there are diagrams or something of a design, and you know, after collecting data you can hear a new part has been unlocked. And a lot of other games, if you've noticed, most games, after you do something, accomplish something, you get like medals. And you get like these shining stars, congratulations. We don't really get that in this game at the moment. And I'm wondering if that's going to be implemented. Because what do we get? I mean, for like career mode, okay, fine. We make something, get data, but there's no real, doesn't give you any boost, like no achievement or anything like that, right? I mean, sure, you get the next stage, the next level, but there's no like, oh, well done, you have accomplished this and that. Like most, you know, kids like that. People like that generally. I wouldn't mind it. Go ahead, even though it'd mean nothing to me. It'd be cool to have that as a feature. So anyway, interesting stuff. Anyway, so I think that is it for this episode, guys. We visited quite a few things. We saw the UFO. You know, the UFO is not, I wouldn't really say it's unique because the UFO is on Kerbin as well, in the North Pole somewhere. So I wouldn't say that's unique, but the only real unique thing that we found really was the Neil Armstrong Memorial and kind of the arches, since the arches are only found on the moon, from what I'm told. And there's a bit of noise in the background. But the rubbish truck is here. Anyway, guys, I do hope you enjoyed. Take care. Bye. See you next time.